Well, you both mentioned societal behaviors and societal, I'll call them biases.
Mm-hmm.
If you could each pick one that you would like to help make different, what would that be?
Just one. Mm.
Well, I want blind people to be treated like the capable adults that they are. So often, when someone loses their vision or is blind, whatever the case, there's a presumption that they need to be treated differently, that they need to be treated with a level of help and comfort that diminishes their value in the world. People grab me all the time, assuming that I'm going to run into something. Now, I don't know about you, but it irks me to be grabbed by some stranger on the street. Now, if I'm going to fall into a big hole and break my neck, I probably won't be too upset about being grabbed in that case. But it's never anywhere close to that serious. And most of the time it's because they perceive that I'm not going where they think I should be going, even though they have no clue where I'm trying to go. So, and I should say, of course, a lot of times it is well-intentioned, but it's, people don't think. Here's a blind person, wherever they've come to, the bank or wherever, and you have to wonder, didn't they think that you had to get there somehow? And there's just a general level of just not being treated like an adult, even if you're well-dressed and you're confident and competent. And you can see how blind people internalize the idea that that's how they need to be treated. And unless we get to blind people and teach them, which is what we work on all the time, that's not, you don't need to accept that the limits aren't there. It's just people think they're there. Be useful if people saw a blind person and didn't automatically assume that here's a person that I have to drop everything and help. Now, sometimes you want help and you want information, and that's useful, but it's the assumption and the pushing and pulling and prodding that it makes it hard to even accept help sometimes, because you're not really treated like just an average person on the street.
For me, I guess I definitely believe all of those things, but I guess to make mine a little bit different, there's lots of things that I wish would change, but I would really focus on parents of blind children, because so often, especially if a child is born blind, parents are told they're going to be delayed, they'll walk later, they'll do such and such later, and they're just given very bad information sometimes. Again, well-intentioned, and maybe there are some research studies out there, but instead of focusing on these are the things that you can do to help your child learn to do the things that they can do at a developmentally appropriate age, right away it's focusing on the deficit. Well, because they don't have vision, they're not going to pick up on such and such a visual cue, so they're not going to do such and such. And then again, if a child loses vision or is diagnosed later, parents are often told, that the doctors believe that that's a failure on their part. And so they're often not given information about, okay, yes, your child will be blind someday, and here are the things that they can do and that you can do, so that when and if that happens, they have all the tools in their toolbox that they can use to succeed in their life. We're not to say that the loss of vision is not a loss, but you can negate a lot of it if you know, okay, if I become blind tomorrow, I can read Braille, so I'll still be able to read. And if I become blind tomorrow, I can use a cane. So yes, it will be different, but I'll be able to get where I want to go. so often it's just focused at the whole, even if you have a little bit of sight, that's what's focused on. And parents and you know, professionals and schools often, and I don't blame the parents so much because they don't know. I mean, they're looking to professionals for guidance. And if all they're ever told is, you know, oh, you know, your child can use the 72-point large print and they'll be fine because they can still see some. Look at this child over here, you know, this child's totally blind, you know, at least your child doesn't have it this bad. That's just really damaging. So the more parents we can get to, the more kids we can get to just, like Mark was saying, help them understand what blindness is and what the limits are and what they aren't. That would be the thing that I would want to focus on changing.
So it sounds like both of you would like all of us to work harder to recognizing that loss of sight or blindness is simply one characteristic of a person. And it's not necessary to define a person by one of their characteristics.
Absolutely, I think so often there's an assumption that loss of vision means some diminishment of capacity, and if that's the approach we take, we're going to put so many more limits on things than the alternative. So.
Absolutely, and it's just so feared. People fear losing vision because vision is so pervasive in everything that people do. I mean, if you are, I think it's a lot, now of course I've never had vision, but to me I think it would be a lot easier to get focused on things that you can see around you and turn off your ears, so to speak, than maybe it is to turn off your eyes because, you know, maybe there's not sound, maybe it's pretty quiet, but there's always something to look at, or almost always something to look at. So people don't understand. They fear it. They don't know what they would do. And so they immediately prescribe all of those fears and all of those questions that they have about how they would cope to people that are blind, and then they just jump to a whole bunch of different conclusions.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much because you're both wonderful examples of the fact that wonderful lives can be lived with people who have a characteristic of blindness or sight loss. And I'd like to thank you both for being such great models and for being willing to work with me at the Fox Center so we can work together and help get this message out so that people need not be afraid and they challenge the boundaries that other people place on them. So again, Mark, Melissa, fabulous, and I look forward to a long and rewarding relationship with both of you.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
so
you very
much.
Anytime.